What is animation production pipeline? We call that a logical organization of the steps required to produce an animated film. So this is what I'm going to show you as the animation production pipeline is the actual production process used by most of animation or VFX movie or special effect movie studios. Okay? Obviously, every studios have their own production pipeline. However, um, and obviously they are kind of different to each other a little bit by the number of artists they have or the available resource they have at the studios. So they are slightly different to one another. However, in general form, they are mostly similar. I wanted to stress how important it is for you guys to understand this production pipeline because this will give you good idea on the whole overview of this animation process. Also help you um, integrate better when you actually start working at the studio. Okay. In many cases, when you actually first get a job at the studio, your job will be most likely fairly specialized. Okay, if you're actually looking at number of different job posting for in the animation field, they are not they are rarely looking for the title job job title something like 3D artist. They do it once in a while, but because this animation work is very specialized, which means when you graduate and when you apply for the job, you have to apply for a specific position. For example, do you want to be a modeler? Then you should apply for the a modeler position. Or do you want to be an animator? Then you should apply for an animation position, right? And then there's also position something like a lighting artist, rendering regular, also compositor, um, concept artist, preview artist, layout artist. Um, what other there? Yeah, I think it's pretty much that there. But there's a lot more jobs that had quite a bit of a specialties in there. Okay, so what happened is around the midway through of this whole program, we will be pretty much ask you to pick your own discipline. So by the around the midway of semester two or near the end, you should have better idea about the what is modeling, what is involved, what is animator, what is the lighting artist, what is a compositor. From there, you should be able to find what interests you most and what you feel that can, really showcase your artistic skills. Okay? And then from there, you will be creating a portfolio, or we call it demo reel. Demo reel is pretty much a collection of the work that you did so far, and putting into a single movie. And you either post it on YouTube or Vimeo, and then, that essentially becomes your portfolio, right? So that's that. So let me just quickly move on to the next page to give you that what this is about. So there are a number of a different steps. Just think about that every step that you see in a much bigger studio, its own department pretty much. Okay? So like there's at the beginning, there's like a storyboard department, design concept design department, preview department, asset building department, layout department, animation department. If you are even like working in a bigger studio, this is even more specialized, right? On the other hand, if you let's say you are working at the mid-size or smaller size studio, there's a lot of things kind of start overlapping. Okay, for example, let's say you are working in a big studio, you hired, let's say you hire as a modeler, then all you will be doing will be modeling in many cases. Okay, and if you hire as the texturing artist, then all you do will be pretty much texturing. So, however, if you actually get a job at the mid-size or smaller size studio, um, you'll be handling the asset building, which means you will be likely asked to do modeling and then doing a rigging and texturing possibly, right? So you have to do all three tasks to be a asset artist. Um, let's say if you're working in the middle or smaller size studio, okay? So let me just quickly go over that. So in many cases, either client, movie studios, or investors, or you know, those people will be contacting the or reaching out to the animation studios or movie studios to discuss about the potential project that is happening, right? And from there, the those studios and then the investor or the actual clients they actually meet um, and then start to talk about the ideas, right? So we call that at the very first stage as a client brief, which is pretty much explained in short form about the project they want their specific or studio to work on. Okay. From there, there's a number of brainstorming meeting taking place. Brainstorm, if you guys, any of you not familiar with what it is, it's more like, the meeting for coming up with the ideas. Okay. In many cases, when you're going to brainstorm meeting, you have the this organizer like standing in front of you, and then with behind you is a huge whiteboard, and then the people participating in the meeting, you just start talking about like throwing the random ideas, right? And then the person who on the front, you just start to writing down on the whiteboard like anything that's being discussed, pretty much. Doesn't have to be related, doesn't matter as long as it is within the actual um, the whole theme of the meeting they are doing, right? And from there they collect all the ideas or even the words or sentence, and then from there you use that to coming up with a more workable or better idea, right? And at this stage, like a sketch is also being developed. Um, and most importantly, the budget is also discussed fairly extensively because the animation studio needs to know how much resource they have, or in terms of financial resource they have, or the client has that are willing to provide that to the animation so that they can start working, right? So this is think of as kind of planning area and then kind of pre-planning, scheduling, those kind of like very early stage of the things is starting to take place. And once that idea and initial concept stage is pretty much done, you start moving, handing over this idea. I didn't include that here, but there's also the script writer start to writing, in more formal script fashion, right? And then at the same time, with the script, they may have like a work in progress script. The storyboard artist is starting to working on making storyboard. The storyboard is essentially the visual representation of how the story is gonna flow. It is very similar to the graphic novel, right? So it has the panels one after another, and show the flow of the motions or actions visually on the drawing on the piece of papers. And that will help the investors or client to have the visual understanding of how the story gonna pan out, right? I mean, they can read the script and everything, but script is sometimes not going to be enough for many clients or investors because they want to see something visually, right? Something that's drawn. So you can see like how the camera angle for the certain shot is going to be. And those kind of things can be only achieved by, kind of visually showing that, right? But this is since it's very early stage, so there is no animation done, nothing pretty much, right? So it's in many cases the storyboard artist just just sketch out the drawing and panel by panel, right? Just kind of setting up the rough camera, how the character is going to be positioned within the certain frames, and those kind of things will be discussed and will be stated in the storyboard. So you essentially you at least show that not really motion, but kind of show that thing whole story visually. Okay. At the same time, while the storyboard artist is just start working on the story and the panels and visual story, the concept design is also developed as well, based on the ideas or script they have, right? And this storyboard and concept design is very important stage, and that need to be done properly and in very solid manner, right? Especially the concept design area is also, like um, it can like you can get like revision over and over until the client is happy. It's that how important they are when this is pretty much the first time for them to see how the character is gonna look, right? So this is the area that can happen like a lot of going back and forth between the client and the studios, and then continuously going back and discuss about the design and how that's going to be done. Sounds good? After storyboard and concept design is done, you're moving on to the motion test stage. In many cases, the motion test stage, with my experience, is also divided up into a two different stage. The first is what they do is they just do the motion test artists. They just scan the storyboard that is being done and just place them inside of a 2D animation and just make it look like very rough animation to adding some motion to the storyboard. Just think of it that way and putting it into one single movie file. So that will actually, it's kind of similar to a concept design stage. This is another way, or the storyboard stage, that this is another way to, show the motions, show the how the action is gonna flow. But instead of showing that, trying to explain that on the piece of paper, like storyboard, it's much better that if you actually showcase that on in the video format, right? Because you do have some type of motions in there. Okay?